They love your silence. They love that you never ask for what you need. They love that you disappear when things get difficult. But here's what they don't love. They don't love you. They love your absence. You think you're being kind by staying quiet. You think you're being understanding by never voicing your needs. You think you're being mature by swallowing your words when they hurt you. But what you're really doing is teaching people that your voice doesn't matter. And when you teach someone that your voice doesn't matter, you're teaching them that you don't matter. Look around you. The people who drain your energy the most, they're the ones who love your silence the most. They've trained you to believe that speaking up equals conflict, that having needs equals being selfish, that using your voice equals losing their love. But they never loved you in the first place. They loved your compliance. If this feels like I'm reading your mind, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you struggle to say no to the most. I read every single comment, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Alfred Adler, the brilliant psychologist, understood something most of us refuse to accept. We develop our personality as children to survive our environment. If you learned that speaking up meant conflict, rejection, or abandonment, your child mind created a survival strategy. Become invisible, become agreeable, become silent. And that strategy worked. It kept you safe. But it also kept you small. Here's what happened to you as a child. You spoke up once. Maybe you said no to something. Maybe you expressed a need. Maybe you disagreed with an adult. And instead of being heard, you were shut down, punished, ignored, made to feel like your voice was too much, too loud, too inconvenient. You learned that your voice brought consequences, your voice brought tension, your voice brought disapproval. So your survival instinct kicked in and whispered, if speaking up hurts, then staying quiet must be safe. And it was safe, but safe is not the same as alive. Safe is not the same as loved. Safe is not the same as free. So you learned to whisper. Then you learned to stay quiet. Then you learned to disappear entirely. You became a ghost in your own life, haunting the edges of conversations, never fully present because presence required a voice you'd learned to silence. The people who claim to love your quiet nature don't love you. They love their comfort. They love that you never challenge them. They love that you never make them face their own selfishness. They love that you've made yourself so small that they can take up all the space in the relationship, without ever having to consider your needs. They love that you never speak up because it means they never have to change. They love that you never complain because it means they never have to improve. They love that you never leave because it means they never have to face the consequences of their behavior. But here's the truth that will set you free. Every time you stay silent when you should speak, you're not preserving love. You're preserving an illusion. You're preserving a relationship with someone who can only handle a muted version of you. And a relationship that requires you to be less than who you are is not a relationship worth having. Think about it. When was the last time someone asked you what you really wanted? When was the last time someone said, I want to hear your truth even if it's difficult? When was the last time someone created space for your voice instead of demanding your silence? If you can't remember, it's because you've surrounded yourself with people who benefit from your quiet. People who thrive when you shrink. People who feel powerful when you feel small. You were not born to be convenient. You were not born to make other people comfortable with their selfishness. You were born with needs, desires, opinions, and boundaries. And every single one of them deserves to be expressed, respected, and honored. The fear that stops you from speaking up isn't really about them leaving. It's about discovering that they were never truly there to begin with. It's about realizing that the love you thought you had was conditional on your silence. And yes, that realization will hurt. But it will also liberate you. Because once you understand that they only love you when you don't speak up, you'll finally understand why you felt so empty in their presence. You'll finally understand why their love never felt quite right. You'll finally understand why you've been suffocating in relationships that should have been giving you life. You'll understand why you feel exhausted after spending time with them, why you feel smaller instead of bigger, why you feel confused instead of clear, why you feel drained instead of energized. It's because they've been feeding off your silence. They've been nourished by your diminishment. They've been strengthened by your weakness. And you've been dying a slow death, one swallowed word at a time. Carl Rogers taught us that we can only be truly loved when we're being authentically ourselves. When you hide your voice, you're not being loved. You're being tolerated. When you suppress your needs, you're not being cherished. You're being managed. When you silence your truth, you're not being accepted. You're being controlled. The right people will not flee when you find your voice. The right people will celebrate it. The right people will say, "Finally, I get to know who you really are." The right people will create space for your words, not demand your silence. The right people will ask you what you think. The right people will want to know how you feel. The right people will encourage you to speak up, not shut down. The right people will love you more when you use your voice, not less. But you have to be willing to lose the wrong people to find the right ones. You have to be willing to disappoint the people who love your silence to attract the people who love your voice. You have to be willing to make the people who benefit from your quiet uncomfortable to create space for the people who will celebrate your truth. Start speaking up about small things. Tell the waiter your order is wrong. Tell your friend you don't like that restaurant. Tell your partner you need 5 minutes to yourself. Practice using your voice in low-stakes situations so it's strong when you need it most. Notice how people react when you speak up. The ones who get defensive, they're the ones who love your silence. The ones who listen, they're the ones who love your voice. The ones who dismiss you, they're the ones who never loved you at all. Pay attention to their body language. Do they lean in when you speak, or do they lean away? Do they ask follow-up questions, or do they change the subject? Do they validate your feelings, or do they minimize them? The people who love your silence will always find a way to redirect the conversation back to themselves. They'll interrupt you mid-sentence. They'll dismiss your concerns as not that serious. They'll make you feel guilty for having needs in the first place. When you finally speak up, some people will be shocked. They'll say, "You've changed." They'll say, "You used to be so easygoing." They'll say, "I liked you better before." Let them. Their discomfort with your voice is not your problem to solve. Their nostalgia for your silence is not your responsibility to maintain. Some people will try to guilt you back into silence. They'll say you're being difficult. They'll say you're being selfish. They'll say you're being too sensitive. Don't believe them. They're not upset because you're wrong. They're upset because you're right and they can't handle it. You are not responsible for managing other people's reactions to your authenticity. You are not responsible for making others comfortable with their own selfishness. You are responsible for honoring the voice inside you that has been waiting patiently for permission to speak. The people who love your silence don't love you. They love their power over you. The people who love your voice? Those are your people. Those are the ones worth keeping. Those are the ones who will build something real with you, not just something convenient. Your voice is not too much. Your needs are not too demanding. Your truth is not too harsh. You have been convinced that you are too much by people who were not enough. You have been told you are too loud by people who were too weak to handle your strength. Here's what they don't want you to know. Your voice is your power. Your opinions are your identity. Your needs are your humanity. When you silence yourself, you're not just hiding your words, and you're hiding your soul. And a soul that's been hidden for too long starts to forget its own worth. It starts to believe that silence is safety, that small is beautiful, that invisible is preferable. But you were never meant to be invisible. You were meant to be seen, heard, and valued exactly as you are. Your voice matters, your needs matter, your truth matters, and anyone who can't handle that was never meant to be in your life anyway. The ones who stay when you find your voice, they're the ones who were always meant to be there. Stop whispering your worth. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop making yourself small so others can feel big. Speak up. Speak out. Speak your truth. The right people are waiting to hear it. The people who love your silence are the people who fear your power. The people who love your voice are the people who recognize your worth. Choose wisely.